Another big story we haven't gotten to yet. Senator Marco Rubio has explained missing the most votes of any senator this year by saying they are not, quote, meaningful.
A lot of these votes won't mean anything. They're not going to pass, and even if they did, the president would veto it.
So now one of the largest newspapers in Florida is calling on him to step down. The editorial board of the Sun Sentinel writes Marco Rubio should resign, not rip us off. He says he's MIA from his job, J-O-B, because he finds it frustrating and wants to be president. Instead, sorry, Senator, but Floridians sent you to Washington to do a job. We've got serious problems with clogged highways, eroding beaches, flat Social Security checks, and people who want to shut down the government. If you hate your job, Senator, follow the honorable lead of Speaker Boehner and resign. Let us elect someone who wants to be there and earn an honest dollar for an honest day's work. Don't leave us without one of our 2 representatives in the Senate for the next 15 months or so. You are paid $174,000 per year to represent us, to fight for us, to solve our problems. Plus, you take a $10,000 federal subsidy, declined by some in the Senate, to participate in one of the Obamacare health plans. Though you are a big critic of Obamacare, you are ripping us off, Senator. By choosing to stay in the Senate and get the publicity perks and pay that go with the position without doing the work, you are taking advantage of us. Your job is to represent Floridians in the Senate. Either do your job, Senator Rubio, or resign it.
Chuck, Todd, I saw the Washington Post article this week. The second I read it, usually it doesn't, these stories don't matter. Marco's saying he hated the Senate. Marco's saying that federal workers should be treated tougher, that don't do their job. Marco talking about his frustrations. I mean, we come from a state, you and I, that have millions and millions of voters. A lot of people went out on the limb electing this young guy. And I just thought this is a disaster for him, because he's saying he hates the Senate. He can't handle the Senate. He's bored with the Senate. Well, you get over 10 million people that are depending on your representation. If you hate it so much, quit.
Just think of the people who are
Go
out of
home.
work.
Let somebody do the job they can. And I say that as a guy who, in the middle of my 4th term, knew I had to go home because my kids, one of them had diabetes and another one was like, Dad, I've been without you now for like 7 years. And he was in middle school. He goes, I need you to come home. I had to come home. I didn't just sit there and take a paycheck. I had to make the toughest decision of my life. And I hated leaving the job I loved. But you know what? I knew I couldn't represent the people who voted for me and be with my kids full time. I mean, at some point, Marco's got to quit. He's got to quit the Senate if he's not going to do his job, right?
Well, I think I think you look at that editorial, combine it with his quotes, those 30-second ads. Let's say he is the nominee. Hillary Clinton is going to destroy him in ads by saying, you know what? You know, I've had more obstacles. There have been a ton of times that I wanted to quit, but I didn't quit. I kept doing I mean, you can just picture, and it's not just her, Jeb Bush and all this stuff. You can just picture how this debate goes. I'm with you, Joe. I read that article and I thought, this is be hung around as, and this was right after, you know, everybody's saying, oh, it's Rubio's the savior. He's the one that the establishment's going to rally around. And I'm thinking, after reading that article, I don't see. And remember, this is his qualification. This is his qualification. And by the way, the biggest complaint among some Democrats quietly of Barack Obama is that he's given up on working with Congress too easily. Marco Rubio sounds like a guy that, let's say he's dealing with Speaker Pelosi. Is he going to get frustrated and just say, I'm just going to sign executive orders. I'm tired of Congress.
Well, exactly. And that is my pet peeve with Barack Obama is, and I've said it to you privately, he gave up. He gave up because it was too hard trying to figure out how to deal with the Republican Congress that was angry, that was going to try